Let's face it, not all Pokemon are created equal. No, I'm not talking about stats or typing. I'm talking about the Pokemon that are judged purely because their design is unorthodox. Yes, I'm talking about every genwunners kryptonite, inanimate object Pokemon. You've heard it before.
Ice cream? Trash? They are seriously running out of ideas. They just take things, put eyes on them, and call them Pokemon.
Well, I won't stand for it. I am tired of newer Pokemon carrying this stigma of being uninspired when older Pokemon are just as guilty as they are. So today we're going to take a look at every Pokemon that is based off of an inanimate object or non-living thing to decide which generation is really the biggest offender. And considering there are a lot of them, I decided to bring in someone whose accent makes them sound way more sophisticated than I do, so you're more likely to be convinced.
Hey guys, I'm Aura, and yeah, inanimate object Pokemon. There are a lot of them, much more than you'd think, so covering every single one, as you'd imagine, is going to take quite some time. But before we do that, we also made an inanimate object Pokemon top 10 list over on my channel, going over some Pokemon you probably didn't expect to be classed as an inanimate object Pokemon. Although, after watching this video, you will know every Pokemon that is based on an inanimate object. But we'll go into more detail on those specific Pokemon on my channel.
And remember, we're going to cover everything we could find. Even Pokemon that are even partially based on non-living things aren't safe. You've been warned. Let's find out which generation is really the biggest offender in triggering close-minded genwunners. Cue intro. Of course, we'll start things off with Generation 1. Charizard and Ninetales are based on shit. Yeah, okay, that one was a joke, but that was Aura's idea. Anyway, Blastoise is partially based on a tank. Meowth is based on the Maneki Nico, a popular cat figurine in Japan said to bring good luck. Geodude and Graveler are based on rocks, and while Golem is apparently supposed to be a tortoise, Alolan Golem is partially based on a railgun. Ghastly and Haunter are gas, and Gengar is a shadow. I mean, technically ghosts are not living things, but you know, semantics, whatever. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff are based on balloons. Don't believe me? Look, they inflate and fly. And if you can tell me what animal this is, then cool, but they're still balloons. Magnemite and Magneton, you know. Grimer and Muck are based on shit. That's not a joke this time, they're actually waste. Voltorb and Electrode are Pokeballs, and possibly ball lightning. Coughing and Wheezing are based on air pollution, meteorites, and naval mines because they can explode. Ditto is kind of a hard one because it's kind of just a blob, but apparently it was originally intended to be based on a happy face. And finally, Porygon is based on a duck, or more accurately, a 3D render of a duck. So Porygon is based on a fake thing that's based on a real thing. That's so meta.
Moving on to Gen 2, Mara and Azumarill, while obviously being based on a mouse and a bunny, are based on beach balls. Igglybuff, like its evolutions, is based on a stupidly adorable balloon. Despite looking exactly like a tree, Sudowoodo is based on petrified wood, or more simply, a tree fossil. So, a dead tree rock. Unknown is based on alphabet soup. I'm kidding, it's actually based on the alphabet, which isn't a living thing. Go figure. Elekid is based on an AC power plug. I don't know how we didn't notice these things were prongs until scripting this video. Insert Beyblade joke here. Him on top is a top. Based on name and body language alone, Wobbuffet is based on the late comedian Sanpei Hayashiya. But at its core, Wobbuffet is based on a punching bag, with its tendency to hit back harder being based on karma. Pineco and Fortress, bagworms, yes. Grenade and cannons, also yes. Quillfish is partially based on a naval mine. Natu and Xatu are totems, which I didn't actually notice until Speqtor pointed it out.
You're welcome.
Mantine is apparently partially based on a kite, or better yet, a fighter plane. Porygon 2, like Porygon, is a 3D render of a duck, although the Porygon line may also be based on an origami crane. Slugma and Makago are obviously mollusks, but look, that's lava. They're lava shake mollusks. There's no point in arguing. And finally, in an evolution that seems nonsensical, Remoraid and Octillery are based on a revolver and a turret, which makes a little more sense rather than a fish evolving into an octopus.
Next up is Generation 3. Azurill, just like its evolutions, is based on a beach ball. Whismur is based on a stuffed animal with its ears being reminiscent of earmuffs, while Loudred and Exploud are based on a boombox and a pipe organ respectively. The best bug type ever, Shedinja, is based on a discarded cicada shell, which I guess used to be living, but it isn't anymore, so it kinda counts. Gulpin and Swalot are based on stomachs and or poison glands, which are both organs, but I don't really think being part of a living thing makes you a living thing. Makuhita is a punching bag. Nosepass is based on Easter Island heads and a compass. Numel and Camerupt are based on volcanoes, if that wasn't obvious. Lunatone and Solrock. Duh. Baltoy and Claydol are based on clay dolls. Oh, and Baltoy is also a top. Castform is based on something squishy and round. You know what I'm talking about. A weather balloon, and also a cloud. Get your mind out of the gutter. Spoink is based on a spring or a jack-in-the-box, and both Spoink and Grumpig are based on the Bible verse from Matthew 7:6. Neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. Basically, don't try to tell stupid people smart stuff, cause they don't care. I think. Anyway, Cacturn is a scarecrow. Swablu and Altaria are partially based on clouds or cotton. Shuppet is a puppet and is also based on Teru Teru Bozo, which are these little ghost thingies that are supposed to keep away bad weather. Bayonet is a doll, particularly a voodoo doll, and a marionette. Dusclops may look like a mummy, but it's actually based on a haunted paper lantern known as Chochin Obake. Chimecho is a wind chime. That was easy. Wynot is based on Okiagari Koboshi dolls, basically the Japanese version of Weeble Wobbles. Beldum, Matang, and Metagross are robot, dumbbell, UFO things. Regirock, Regice, and Registeel are golems and are also based on their respective elements. Latios and Latias are literally just jets. Jirachi is based on wishing on a star and a Tanabata tree, where people hang little slips of paper with their wishes on them. And finally, Deoxys is based on deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA.
We'll kick off Generation 4 with a couple of Pokemon that I actually had to point out to Speqtor since he's somehow missed them. Shieldon and Bastiodon are based on a shield and a bastion. Here's an obvious one. Drifloon is a balloon, and Drifblim is a hot air balloon. Another obvious one. Chingling is a bell. Bonsly, like Sudowoodo, is petrified wood. Bronzor and Bronzong are based on a mirror and a bell from Japanese folktale. Spiritomb is based on a lot of things. Actually, we honestly can't be bothered to name everything, especially for the sake of time, so short version, Spiritomb is based on the number 108. Magnezone is based on magnets and a UFO. Porygon Z is yet another 3D render of a duck. Probopass shares the same inspirations as Nosepass. Shutop may be a parrot, but it's also partially based on a metronome and an eighth note. Rotom is based on plasma and a ball of lightning, and then all of its other forms are based on appliances. We realise the forms are Rotom taking over the appliance, and not Rotom actually changing form, but the inspiration for Rotom to take over appliances and slightly change their appearance had to come from somewhere, so we'll count them. Garchomp, design-wise, is based on a fighter jet. Darkrai is apparently based on a shadow and also nightmares. Heatran is based on volcanic remains, and Regigigas, like the other Regis, is based on a golem.
Now let's move on to the bane of every genwunners existence, Generation 5. Victini is based on the Roman numeral 5, which looks like a V, and Usagi Ringo, which is a style of cutting apples to look like bunnies. Muna and Musharna are based on tapirs, but are also based on incense burners, which I didn't know until I came up with the idea for this video like over a year ago. Roggenrola, Boldor, and Gigalith are geodes. Cottony and Whimsicott are cotton. Darumaka and Darmanitan are based on Daruma dolls, which were dolls given as symbols of perseverance and good luck. Sigilif is based on the Nazca lines, Kachina dolls, and a wind chime. Yamask resembles Ba, which is an ancient Egyptian glyph representing someone's personality, holding a death mask. Alright, lightning round. Cophagrigus is a sarcophagus. Trubbish and Garbodor are trash. Vanillite, Vanillish, and Vanillix are ice cream. Golett and Golurk are golems and or suits of armor. Haxorus is a battle axe. kind of. Poniard and Bisharp are chess pieces with sharp things. Clink, Clang, and Kling Clang are gears. Litwick, Lampent, and Chandelure are blessings to mankind and the greatest Pokemon to ever exist. Also, they're a candle and a lamp and a chandelier. Cryogonal is a snowflake or a mirror. And finally, Reshiram and Zekrom are based on yin and yang conceptually and draw their physical inspiration from the two contraries, which are a symbol in alchemy, and that's a rabbit hole way too deep to cover in this video. Just go to Lockston's Pokemon Reset Theory playlist. I hope you have a spare 5 hours.
While we still have all the Gen 1ers triggered from talking about 5th Gen, let's talk about the generation that added the oh-so-popular Fairy type, Gen 6. We'll start with my personal favourite, Skidoo and Go-Goat. They're goats. And a bike. And a motorcycle. Their horns are even handlebars. And that's why it's called Go-Goat. Yeah, I didn't believe it at first either. Moving on, Honedge, Doublade, and Aegislash, not so surprisingly, are swords. Spritzy and Aromatease are perfume Pokemon, with faces that resemble masquerade masks, or, more pointedly, Plague Doctor masks, in which the noses will be stuffed with potpourri to cover up the smell of dead people. Swirlix is obviously cotton candy, and Slurpuff is apparently supposed to be meringue, although it looks more like a cupcake. Chloritza is partially based on a howitzer, which is pretty much just a massive ass gun. Dedenne gets its name and whisker design from antennas. Klefki, take a guess. Carbink is a chunk of diamond. Bergmite and Avalugg are primarily based on icebergs, among other things. Noibat and Noivern are partially based on speakers, and kind of look like gargoyles. Diancie is a chunk of diamond, but pink. Volcanion is apparently based on a tank, as well as a cannon and a steam engine. And just like the end of the alphabet, Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde are partially based on X, Y, and Z.
Finally, there's our newest addition to the Pokemon roster, Generation 7. Charjabug is a battery, and Vic, however you say its name, is a railgun. Man, they really liked railguns this gen. Comfey, no surprise at all, is a lay. Stuffle and Beware are based on stuffed animals. Sandygast and Palisand are sandcastles, but are also based on haunted castles thanks to their ghost typing. Minior is literally a mini meteor. And a star. Turtonator gets part of its basis on landmines. A big fan favorite, Mimikyu, is based on an old plush doll. Delmise is an anchor and a steering wheel. All 4 Tapus are based on tikis, with each tiki being based on some kind of animal. Cosmog is based on a nebula, which is where the name Nebi comes from. Cosmoem has characteristics of a sun, moon, and a star cluster. Xurkitree is just a bunch of wires. Celesteela is based on a rocket, and Kartana gets its basis from origami and a katana. Necrozma is based on prisms, and maybe obsidian if my theory from a previous video holds up. And last but not least, Magearna is based on gears, a robot, and of course, a Pokeball.
So in total, there are around 171 Pokemon based on non-living things. Essentially, an entire region's worth of them, spanning across every generation. But which generation is really the worst offender?
Generation 5 is not the guiltiest. If you were paying attention, it's actually Generation 3 that has the most things with eyes, with a whopping 35 Pokemon.
And yet, Generation 3 is hailed as one of the better generations among a lot of fans.
So what was the point of this video? Well, it's to show people that later generations, especially 5, aren't as bad or uninspired as stupid people like to think they are. It's to show you that even some fan favorites are technically based on non-living things, which by that logic makes them uninspired, but they're not.
Each generation has its good and bad eggs, and you can't judge an entire generation based on how many unoriginal designs it has, because they're all equally as guilty. So if you're gonna hate the later generations, you might as well hate all generations, because they're all equal.
Except Generation 1. Fuck Gen 1. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to become a member of the crew. And I'd like to give a big thank you to the TheAuraGuardian for joining me today.
If you want to see our top 10 list of Pokemon that we found the most surprising to be based on non-living things, click the icon above or follow the link in the description.
If you want to stay up to date with either of us, be sure to follow us on Twitter. That's all for now, so until next time, stay bueno.